everybody, welcome back to Adam's Retro Rewatch, and happy June Hughes. As you can see, things have changed. I've moved to a different location. It's a bit more cozy, and I decided to go full horror with my wall here. So I hope you like it. If you don't, it's not really going to change, so either you like it or you don't. I like it. And what better way to celebrate a new all horror wall than to do it with an 80s teen comedy. It's 2022, and it's time for a new set of movies by the influential filmmaker John Hughes. It's June Hughes, so let's get going. But first, a sponsor of sorts.
Now, when we fought, you had that eye of the tiger, man, the edge.
Hey everybody, my name is Adam and I am part of the Cinemadness podcast. I'm here to tell you about some exciting news. We're making a movie. As I've mentioned on the show numerous times, I am obsessed with the films of 1982, and I want to share my love of those years with all of you. So we are taking a deep dive into 75 movies, all from 1982, to show that this was an important year, or maybe the most important year in pop culture cinema. Movies like Blade Runner, The Thing, E.T., Poltergeist, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and many, many more. Interviewing cast and crew from these movies, as well as fans and also film experts. We are currently crowdfunding for equipment and logistics while in development, and when we are ready for pre-production, we will get all of you involved too. That means names in the credits, special goodies, perhaps posters and art. So, if you are as excited about this as we are, and really, why shouldn't you be? Check out our campaign at cinemadnesspodcast.com/1982themovie. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at 1982themovie. So come along with us and let's celebrate cinema.
All right, just like last year, I'm going to do 3 movies he directed and 1 he wrote. I guess I'm just trying to keep on with continuity. I don't know. It just turned out that way. Movies I wanted to talk about. So let's kick off June Hughes with probably what is the least John Hughesy, yet most Hughesy, because it has almost all of his tropes in it. But it's a comedy, and it's probably the weirdest one that I mean. And by that, I mean the special effects laden weird science. Starring Anthony Michael Hall, Elon Michael Smith, who gave up acting, and I think he's a teacher now, or a professor or something. Kelly LeBrock, Robert Downey Jr., and Bill Paxton. Weird Science is basically a teen sex comedy take on Frankenstein and Aladdin mixed with that John Hughes flair. Hall and Smith play Gary and Wyatt, 2 best friends who are basically the least popular people in the school, in the town of Shermer, not only with the girls, but basically the entire world, it would seem. They're always talked about being beat up on. They're always laughed at school. Even though Wyatt comes from money, he has a big house and wears nice clothes and he has a supercomputer. It doesn't matter because they're not popular. And it's basically because of the lack of confidence that they have. The movie gets going pretty fast. It starts almost right away. They're sitting in Wyatt's living room. His parents are out of town, so they're just sitting there watching the 1931 Frankenstein movie, and they have this cool little conversation about horror movies. And it's not in the theatrical cut; it's in the extended version, which is basically the TV version that has like the extra scenes that they put in TV versions put in there. It's a really cool conversation. They talk about how the Universal movies are more campy and not scary. That, you know, stuff like Dawn of the Dead is more scary. And I guess I would imagine that's how people in the 80s would talk about that kind of stuff. I'm glad the 1930s and 40s Universal horror movies have gotten more of a respect now, especially after the British Hammer horror of the 60s and 70s, how they were taking themselves seriously, but it was still, that was more camp than the Universal horror. But that's neither here or there. I can't talk. I'm in a new place. It's a new me. I've got a new voice box, new larynx. I don't, but I don't know. I might cut this out. I might keep it in. Who knows? But watching this Frankenstein movie, which in the living room, they were watching on this big projector, and it was in black and white, and it was beautiful. And then they go to Wyatt's bedroom, and they're watching the same movie, just picked up in the same part, but it's in color. And I don't know if that was just like a choice, or it's just a continuity thing that they didn't think of. But yeah, they go from black and white to color, which are two different things, because I don't know, it's different. But Gary has this crazy idea to make a woman. And originally it was going to be more of like an AI type thing where they, feed it information and give it a personality and a brain and that kind of thing, so it could answer their questions on, how do we become popular? How do we become popular with our peers, and especially girls, because they're 15 in this movie. They probably look 17 or 18, but they're 15 in this movie. 15. I don't know. With the power of movie magic hacking, hacking in movies shows, a lot of graphics and a lot of GUI type stuff. GUI as in graphical user interface, not like slime. It's a technical term. It's a computer term. I'm a nerd, you know that. But Wyatt's computer is powerful enough to bring life into a doll they hooked it up to, and poof, we have Lisa, played by Kelly LeBrock. Now, Lisa's name was made due to an almost artificial intelligence that got created by Apple Computers in the 80s. I don't think anything came of it, but the code name of it was Lisa. And there you go, because that's the way John Hughes do. But this Lisa is a living, breathing, submissive, genie-like woman in the service of two 15-year-old boys. Yeah, the 80s had some problematic moments. Hell, John Hughes had some problematic movies. And we're going to get into more of that as this event goes on this year. But she's less of a sex robot or whatever, and more of a sexy Mary Poppins. In fact, Kelly LeBrock actually said in an interview that her character was basically Mary Poppins with breasts. And she used her sexiness on the world around Gary and Wyatt to help them gain confidence, to be the best versions of themselves. She did kind of help Wyatt learn how to kiss, which was kind of a hard thing to watch. I mean, she's 23, I think, in the movie, or around that, and he's 15. And these are character ages, not their ages. I would imagine there's laws against that in movies, even in the 80s. So, and that really shows that inside this perverted teen comedy is a real beating heart. And it really shows at the end. 37-year-old, spoiler alert, when she sees that she's served her purpose and she has to say goodbye, I found myself kind of tearing up with sadness and happiness for Gary and Wyatt, because they're finally their real selves. They're no longer afraid of what people think, of what the world thinks. They've opened up their minds and decided to embrace their oneness. In fact, John Hughes, when he was shooting the goodbye scene, and it's a lengthy scene for a goodbye scene, but he said he cried a little bit too, because it's a very it's an emotional scene. I mean, she's basically their best friend, the best thing that ever happened to them until they finally broke loose of their chains of insecurity, and that's a big loss. Just like the end of Mary Poppins, she had to move on, and she does move on. She becomes the Shermer High School gym coach. So, in the future, she does this for like all of the teenage kids who need a confidence boost. I mean, that was the whole series that USA made in the mid '90s, was the Weird Science series, and it was the further adventures of Lisa, Gary, Wyatt, and Chet, Wyatt's older brother, played in this movie by Bill Paxton.
How about a nice, greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray?
Going back to the heart of the end of this movie, and it shows that the characters are so believable enough that in this raunchy teen comedy, there's these characters that make you feel like these are real people, and that's the John Hughes secret sauce. He gets his best performance out of his cast, and I talked about that last year with Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club, and that's what grounds this movie, is the characters and the cast giving it their all. Even in this wildly unrealistic movie, this movie is grounded due to the cast. Speaking of the cast, Robert Downey Jr., also only known as Robert Downey at the time, was still trying to make a name for himself. And when Hughes saw him audition, he cast him on the spot because he worked so well with Robert Russler, who played his best friend in the movie, Max. And Downey's pay for this movie was $2,250. So take that, Marvel. I don't know what that means. In fact, Downey and Russler were so close on set, they used to pull pranks on other people. Nobody was safe, including LeBrock's trailer toilet, which is a kind of an urban myth, because no one said anything is concrete, but there's a rumor that Robert Downey Jr. Took a giant poop in her trailer and left it. He has denied it. Russler said it was true. LeBrock still has no idea. It's a big controversy. Poopgate, that's what I'm going to call it. The John Hughes Poopgate. Let's get some investigative journalists on this. Also, on the last day of filming, Robert Downey Jr. drove Robert Russler to the audition for the role of Grady in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which he got.
I don't know why you're wasting time with this guy's a basket case.
Shut up, Grady.
Want to shut up? Fine, I'll shut up. No problem.
And he talks about it in the fantastic documentary about the Elm Street movies. It's called Never Sleep Again. It's 4 hours long. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, especially if you like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But we're not talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. We're talking Weird Science. And specifically, we're still talking about the cast. So let's talk about Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton was on the upswing of being famous as well. I mean, he's done some stuff. He's done more stuff than Robert Downey Jr. at this time. But this was a big Hollywood get for him. And after Weird Science, he went on to do Commando and Aliens right afterwards.
I'm ready, man. Ready to get it on. Go!
And I love hearing stories about Bill Paxton. He was absolutely adored on the set. He's always mentioned when they're talking about, memorials about Paxton. There are a lot of memories, a lot of laughs. They always talk about how much he made them feel like family. And even I miss him. I've never even met the guy, but he was an amazing actor, and losing him and Hughes it's really tough, because these were talents that just don't exist anymore. Yeah, Bill Paxton, he had some crazy roles like Chet and some over-the-top stuff like he did in Aliens and in Near Dark, which is the best vampire movie that ever existed. Take that to my grave. He did some really great stuff too. But the same thing can be said about Hughes. He is still one of the only directors that gets the best performances out of his casts because he was just John. And his cast felt so comfortable doing their absolute best for him that they did. They just gave it their all, and they felt so comfortable around Hughes, and he just loved working with everybody that he worked with. And I didn't mean to make this whole thing a downer. I just wanted to talk about the cast. And Bill Paxton comes up, and the Niagara Falls happens, and it's all a big thing. Going back to Hughes for a bit and how he got the best performances out of everybody, and I don't even mean the main cast either. Weird Science really shined in its supporting cast, or the smaller roles. I know I'm not supposed to say smaller roles. There's no such thing as a small role, but there are some small roles in this movie, and they're great. And all of the actors loved working on this crazy flick. Vernon Wells, the bad guy from The Road Warrior, nearly played the same role that he did in that movie. In fact, this was his first American movie, and he had to come back and reprise his role basically from The Road Warrior, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. In fact, the casting director is the same casting director that did all the 80s action movies. And after Weird Science, he also got to be in Commando along with Bill Paxton. The bikers were great. I once talked to Michael Berryman about working with John Hughes, and he said working on Weird Science was one of the most fun experiences he's ever had making a movie. And that's great. And it made me feel a little bit more connected to John Hughes than I'll ever get. I'll never get to meet the guy. But he also had some interesting things to say about some Rob Zombie projects. But that might be for another time. Wink. I probably should have just winked and not said the word wink, but it says wink here on the script, so I did. Now, I fully believe that this movie really opened up Anthony Michael Hall as an actor. And I know it's kind of what I said back in The Breakfast Club last year. But Weird Science is a different type of open up. He really shows his masterful comic timing. As in The Breakfast Club, he showed how well he was in his dramatic range. But watching Weird Science just now, I was laughing more than I remember that I had ever laughed watching this movie in the past. And it could have been a lot different. He was ready to actually go shoot European Vacation, but chose to do Weird Science instead, thus gave the Vacation series the ongoing tradition of not having the same Griswold kids, all because of Weird Science. Hall also said that he molded his drunk character persona after Richard Pryor, and after reading that and watching the movie again, it's over there. It's over there. I don't know why I keep pointing over there, but it's where the movie is. I can see it. He captures mannerisms and stuff. He doesn't do any voices or anything, but just I would see Anthony Michael Hall doing Richard Pryor. Ooh, not doing. No, that's wrong. No.
Fast man, let me tell you my story, man. Last year, I was insane for this crazy little 8th grade bitch. Okay?
Crazy? Insane?
Insane? Crazy?
I was nuts for the woman, man. Now you gotta believe me. I'm serious. I'm telling the truth here. I'm speaking to you. I was nuts for the girl. And what did it to me was these big titties she had. For a 13-year-old girl, man, she wouldn't have had to worry about no titties for the rest of her life, boy. You know, she was set and she was looking good, son.
Now, I loved this movie as a kid. As a 6 or 7-year-old, I didn't get the whole adult humor, but I sure liked the Tron-like computer effects and just the regular special effects, like the random missile, the kitchen turning blue, the electronic stuff. Chet as being turned into a giant troll / pile of crap. It's fun for a kid to watch, even though the majority of the movie goes over their heads. It's very colorful and very, very busy. That's the word, busy. It still holds up, aside from some outdated jokes. But the story is solid. It's a great addition to the Shermer Hughes verse. The SHV? I don't know. Speaking of Shermer, this is the first time I've noticed it. There is a sign for the town, and it has its motto on the sign, and it is Shermer, welcome to one of America's towns. And I thought that was hysterical. It's hilarious. It's so benign. It's so that's John Hughes. That's John Hughes humor right there. And as I mentioned before in the beginning of this video, this movie has almost all of the John Hughes tropes. There's the suburban white Chicago families. The adult authority figures are basically useless. There is an awful sibling. A lot of fourth wall breaking looks to the camera, more than I thought. I think there's 4, which is a lot for a movie. The fast cars, and of course a killer soundtrack. Aside from the title track by Oingo Boingo, we get songs from Killing Joke, General Public, Van Halen, and Wall of Voodoo. Remember to never underestimate a John Hughes soundtrack. And that's Weird Science. This is a great, fun way to start June Hughes 2022. I haven't done 22 of these events. This is only my second one. But if you like this video, make sure you hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next entry. Also, if you want to hear more fun movie talk, check out the Cinemadness podcast. We try our damnedest to give you a new episode every week. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and sometimes it does. We try to be on a schedule, and we're not very good at it, but we're getting better. We're getting better, especially with our new format. We can be found pretty much where all podcasts are streamed, now including Amazon and Audible, which is getting a lot of traffic, so that's kind of cool. But thanks for joining me for year 2 of June Hughes. I wouldn't have done a second year if you guys didn't like the first one so much. So thanks for allowing me to do another year. And I hope you come back for the next episode. And remember to always celebrate cinema. I winked that time.